Oh, golly, I don't have either a favorite movie or a director. Oh, I do a lot of things. First of all, I love nature. I connect with nature at every level. I have birds and I even have bees and get my own honey. You know, I got chickens and turkeys, so I have my own eggs every morning. I have a garden that we don't stop right now. We're just about to plant the spring garden, which will be corn, and the rains are getting the dirt ready, and I'm getting excited about it. So connect with nature is a key element in my survival. It balances me out. And by the time I would get up every day and leave my home, I would start at 6:30 in the morning, letting the chickens out, feeding them, taking care of them, praying and meditating, actually, getting my strength. And then about 9:30, I would leave for work, and I would be in my suit and tie coming out my door. And then coming out my door, I joined the world. And then I would come home at night, and once again, I'd be renewed in the spiritualness of the land that I felt so grateful that I've been living at now for the last 23 years, which is in Mar Vista. Environment is key. It's key to our own sensibilities and sense of self and sense of dignity. And especially as a gay person, where we're condemned all over the earth. And as we're doing this interview, our people are being killed in some of these countries on the earth that I've been to, and some of these countries where right now to be gay is sinful, immoral, and your life is at stake. So it's a very serious moment in the transition of the closet gay, which we all were, to coming out and accepting ourselves, loving ourselves, realizing that God is love. You love yourself, you love your neighbor as yourself, and you don't judge. And with that, you can take all religions or no religions. So I'm excited today. I was raised a Catholic, one of 8 kids, third of the youngest. And to hear this new Pope get up and say, who am I to judge? And for him to hug everybody, that's the kind of religion that is the religion of humanity and survival on earth. I'm doing this interview because there are a lot of people on this planet who are gay in their closet, who don't have good self-esteem, don't love themselves, treat themselves poorly. Realize you're an expression of God's love, just like everybody else. You are a temple of the Holy Spirit. You are a great moment to communicate with other people. Stay positive as the world doesn't show positiveness to us. So the kind of programs that tie people together, that become role models, that become examples of what we can be as people are key. We cannot, another generation of gay people cannot go to their death as a secret anymore. It's time that everybody accept themselves, be glorified within themselves, and love one another. That's the goal. Now, I can tell you, knowing the generations today, we're seeing a whole new change. Everybody's got an iPhone. Everybody's got an iPad. Everybody's running around in a million different connections. You can just go online and check out different situations, different people, get information together, do your homework, and make right decisions. But this is a very interesting period in history right now. And we're not going to go back in our closet. And they can't kill us all. We're maybe 5% of the population. We don't know what our real numbers are, but we're everywhere, and we all deserve our rights and our dignity and our opportunities to live a healthy and normal life. I'm Bill Rosendahl. My official name is William Joseph Rosendahl. I'm now 68 years old, and I turned that last May 15th. I was born 5/15/45, which are 3 5s, which they say means you like to travel. Who knows numbers? I don't, but they say that means that. I have been to 52 countries. At one point when I was 29 years old, I took off 18 months and wandered the world to find out, why am I gay? I didn't want to be gay. For God's sake, who wants to be gay? Everybody attacks you, beats on you. It's not what you want to be, but you have to accept yourself. That's the most difficult part when you're gay. But when you do accept yourself, when I told my family at my mother's funeral, I was 32 years old, it was the best thing I did. To tell my family who I really am and get their love or their rejection at that one moment was all I needed. Then I came out to my boss, the chairman of the board of Century Cable. He kept whining to me, my wife and girlfriend. I was tired of the same old line. I haven't found the right one and all of that. And I looked down and one day we're driving the car. I'll never forget I'm driving and he's sitting next to me. We're going by the Santa Monica airport. And he says, so I want to meet your girlfriend or your wife. I looked and I said, Leonard, I said, you're a Jew. I feel like a Jew in Nazi Germany, that if I stick my head up, they're going to gas me. He looks at me like this. He said, what's the matter? I said, I happen to be gay, and I'm proud of who I am. And if you can't accept it, I don't need to work for you. He looked at me and said, I don't care what you are. I'd love to have you work for me. And that came off of a bad experience I had with Westinghouse Broadcasting and Cable, where they suspected I was gay. And they put me in a windowless office. They took away my staff, but I wouldn't quit. I'm a tough guy. I'm a real strong guy. And I stayed even though Westinghouse Broadcasting and Cable was not supportive of me, at least the executive was, who ran the group. And then in came Century Cable, a breath of fresh air. 12 years they owned the cable conglomerate. During that period, I put together public affairs shows, did 3,400 of them, the best in LA. When you come to this town, you want to know enough so that when you do your television and other things, you have some intelligence. And I was able to inform and educate and connect people to the issues of the day. I let everybody finish their sentence, everybody finish their thought. I also ran the conglomerate, so I supported my workers. I believe in a living wage. People say, oh, all goes to the top. No, the rich shouldn't make all the money. It shouldn't be 1% to the top. It should be divided in a more responsible way for what you do. Then we wouldn't have all this living wage problems. We wouldn't have all this homeless problems. We wouldn't have a lot of problems if people got paid decently. Well, I convinced Leonard Tower that. He put together a 401k, and our 17,000 employees across the country had a 401k. So you can support unions in the private sector, which is something I truly believed in. But you know, coming out as a gay man was the most difficult thing I ever had to do. When I was 32 at my mother's funeral, that was the most important. And then when I told Leonard Tow, the chairman of the board, he said, I don't care what you are. Well, you know, I would go to the bars in West Hollywood, and some gay guy who had problems with his own head would write a note and say, we know you're gay. We saw you in the bar. So I didn't have to worry about my chain of command or people who worked for me. I had 2,700 employees about who I am or what I am. I'm proud of who I am. And this is who I am, and if you don't like it, it's your problem. It's sort of where my soul was taking me at that period. So I became a role model. I became an example for other people. That was within the corporate world. And then when my first partner, Christopher Lee Blauman, we had been together 14 years, died of AIDS. I'll never overcome that. He died in January of 1995. I'll never forget, I planted the tree that we would take our Christmas tree into the ground that day, and it's now gigantic and has grown up in the property I was at. And now I have another partner for the last 16 years. His name is Hedi El Koti. He's French-Moroccan. And he's in New York right now at the Whitney putting together a big show. He's a writer, he's a producer, he's a director, he's an artist. He's a lot of things in the new generations. And I get a big kick out of seeing the future and how energized it gets and gets involved. And when you talk about the younger people, the people in their 20s, the people in their teens, all they got to realize is they're okay. And it's hard to accept yourself, especially when children and grandchildren and parenthood is always the big thing. Look, we can be good uncles, you know. We don't always have to be the father or the mother. But if we want to be the father and the mother, we should have the right to be able to move in whatever direction our energy and our conscience and our values, you know, suggest we go. People have come up to me and said, Bill, how come you didn't adopt kids? And I said, well, in my particular case, I adopted all the children out there. And so I didn't have to have my own physical kids. I'm not that big of an egomaniac that I have to have my own kids. I said, but what's wrong with all children being part of your family? Why can't you connect everybody? Now, being one of 8, I have lots of nieces and nephews and involved with all of them in different ways that make sense. In fact, one of my nephews, Chris Rosendahl, lives with me. And frankly, he's my primary caregiver. My partner doesn't live with me. He lives on the other side of town, whole nother world, all kinds of other people. All you got to do is love and respect one another and give each other space, and all relationships will work out. And in gay relationships, the straight people need to realize it's another expression of nature, and nature comes from God, and God makes no mistake. So get over it. Just get over it and move on. One of the passions I have right now is I don't want to see another gay person on this planet killed and beaten and destroyed like they are in like 50, 30, 40 different countries. I can go through a list of them. We got to change that on this planet. And the United States of America should lead that leadership role. It's basic civil and human rights. We talk about it all day long, but these are living examples of where people, just because of their sexual orientation, which isn't something we choose or prefer, it's our reality, it's our orientation. Once we accept ourselves, which is the key, we must accept ourselves, then we can love ourselves, love our neighbor as ourselves, and don't judge. The judging thing is a very important thing. A lot of people don't realize this. It's not our responsibility to judge anybody. Even Jesus, if you're going to buy into Jesus, said, those without sin throw the first stone. When they were about to stone Mary Magdalene, and then you realize we all are sinners. And we all should show respect and love for one another. That was, if you believe in the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, ask for forgiveness before I forgive. I mean, it's right there if you're going to get biblical. But you can even get beyond religion and just talk about humanity as a being. The pagans, when you saw that day in the year, the 21st of December, the darkest day of the year, what did they do? They brought in a little bush, a little light. And then the Jews will call it the Hanukkah bush. The Christians will call it the Christmas tree. But it came from the pagans who wanted to bring the light in the darkest day of the year. And that's what it's all about. And it's the light in our hearts, in our soul, and our beings. And right now we're doing this March 1st. I know, 2014. Wow. All right, the days are getting longer. Things are starting to sprout out. And spring is springing and sprunging here in Los Angeles. So I take these positive moments and I build on them. And I say to every gay person out there, you're okay. You are not a bad person. You're not an evil person. And you're not going to hell. Okay? You're another expression of God's love. And we have the biggest challenge. It's a lot easier to be black or brown or a woman than it is to be the gay, which could be a man or a woman or transgender or whatever, bisexual. So I say to all of us that we're blessed to be alive. We should be grateful for everything we have, and we should be there for one another. Well, when I was a Boy Scout, I then realized I was gay because I was at that puberty age. And instead of me looking at the girl, I'm looking at the guy. So I knew there was something different. I didn't know how to explain it. So I went to the library and I looked under H and I saw the word homosexual. I grabbed a book, I never forget it, put it under my sweater, so I wasn't going to check it out of the library, and read it up in my attic in our house. And I would go up there and read the book. And I learned all about Fire Island. And Fire Island and Christopher Street were just across the river. I was growing up in Englewood, New Jersey. I said, wow, and you can drink in New York when you're 18. I always believe you should be able to drink at 18 no matter where you are. If you have to wear a uniform and kill yourself in a damn war, you should at least have the right to get loaded, even though I think it's insane. War is insane, and alcohol should not be the path, but the way the world turns, it goes that way. So there I was, a Boy Scout, and I realized I was gay. I kept it deep, and I didn't even tell my brother Peter, who was a year older than me. We shared a bedroom together. Just to give you the lowdown, we had a 2-story house. The 10 of us all lived on the second floor. My parents in their room, my brother Tommy and Stevie in their room, my brother Peter and I in our room, my 3 sisters in their room, and my brother Frank in his own room because he was a teenager already. And we all admired Frank. He was a great weightlifter and he was strong. And he was a role model for us 4 little boys growing up. But that was the first moment I knew who I really was. And I said, how am I going to deal with this? And it was burning inside of me. I kept it quiet. Never talked about it. I did my Boy Scouts. When I went to high school, I ended up being president of the junior class and president of the student government. And I became the voice of St. Cecilia's Catholic school. And I used to lead the whole school in prayer every morning. Good morning, and lead them in prayer. In fact, I smile right now because I just went back for a 50th high school reunion. And I forgot that I was president of the class, president of student government, all that kind of things. So once again, I was a celebrity in the mind of my own classmates. And they asked me those 2 days to host the event and play big shot, which, hey, it's easy when you got an ego when you're out there all the time. And so I did that for the weekend. That was just not too long ago. It was gratifying to realize that who we are in high school is already the traits of who we are as we go through our lives. You might not recognize it, but when you get affirmed the way I did by my classmates, it was a good validation. The fact that I made it back for it was the real big trip. I was near death, and I said, I'm going to go back. I have to go back. I have stage 4 cancer. It came out of nowhere. It ended up coming out of a pill called Actos that I was taking for my diabetes. I was told I'd be dead before November of 2012. I wouldn't make it to the November election. Well, me being a political crazy, that's the last thing I want to do is be dead for the November election. So that gave me more energy to fight for my survival and fight for the things that I believe in. Even now, each day is more precious than it's ever been. I always used to say, all we have is the moment. When you're really down to the moment, it's a heck of a thing. And there I was in my deathbed. And you know, hundreds of people came to visit me at my house, bringing food, bringing prayer, Jews, Gentiles, Muslims, everybody with their rituals, even the American Indians. I had done a big deal with Playa Vista's Indians. I put them sacredly in the ground where they belong, rather than cardboard boxes in a trailer. And the Indians were so grateful. They came over with black bamboo to present to me, singing their Indian songs and doing it. So I had every religion and no religions and all religions there with me with food and prayer. And I do believe that energy from the world around me saved my life and brought me back so I have more to say and more to share with the people who are able to see this video whenever it will be. But that was my first point, was when in the Boy Scouts, when I realized where I was at. In high school, I supplemented my sexuality by being class president, student government president, put all my energies into those positive expressions and didn't feel sorry for myself. Can't feel sorry for yourself. Can't be self-destructive. None of that stuff. It's all bullshit. Put it aside. You don't have alcohol or drug addiction or any of those things either. They become part of the problem after a while rather than part of the solution, you know? So I say to everybody out there, you're going to get hit about 4 or 5 times in your life where you have to focus on yourself. First time I really had to deal with it was when I was 32 at my mother's funeral. My mother's very last words were, Billy, don't worry, I'll pray for you. She knew I was going through hell. I never told her, but she could see. That's perceptive she was. And then I went home and cried and told everybody, and it was the most amazing moment because that was the most important thing. And I say to all of us out there, your family's the most important on that. They need to realize you're made this way, you're another expression of God's love, and let people get on with their lives and leave you alone or be there for you. That's what we need from our straight parents. Say, what do we do about my son? He's gay? Well, love him just the way you would if he was straight. You know, and people have to learn those lessons, and they will. Because as we're coming out, many of us in the Western world at the moment, it will send a signal to the whole world. And over time, the whole world will move in our direction. But the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned, because of the atrocities done in the name of morality that are killing our people. This is intolerable, and I can't accept it. So if I have any other reason for being alive, it's to get that message out all over the planet. We're as valuable and as important as anybody else, and get over it. It's no big deal. We don't always have to have kids. We can be the uncle, you know? And a lot of people like to have a nice uncle. You ever hear about uncle this or uncle that? Yeah. So we can laugh and smile and do that. But if we also are sacred enough in our relationship, man or woman, and we want to have our children, we should have a right to have them too. So I don't deny anybody anything, but all I believe is in honesty and integrity and being a straight look out there. So when I came out to the family, that was the big deal. Second coming out was to Century Cable's chairman, the way I described it. And Leonard accepted me immediately. And then when my partner died, when Christopher Lee Blauman died, Pat Goodell, who was one of my panelists on my show, said, Bill, I'm so sorry to hear what happened to Chris. And I looked into the camera and I told my public, and this was in 1995, yes, I'm gay. And you know, so many people couldn't believe it because they have a stereotype of gay people. You know, I remember one time walking Barbara Boxer to her car. She says, Bill, come on, you're not gay. I said, Barbara, we come in all shapes and sizes. You know, we're not all feminine. Some of us are, some of us aren't. But we're gay. Yeah. She said, oh, wow, I can't believe it. Well, I helped educate a lot of my straight friends who had stereotyped thoughts of gay people to realize it could be their brother, could be their uncle, could actually even be their father or their priest down the block. You know, the baker, the candlestick maker, could be anybody. See, and once people accept themselves as who they are, Doesn't really matter what the rest do. They can kill us, and they do kill us. But I would much rather love myself than hate myself. And there's no reason to hate yourself because there's nothing wrong with you. And that's the key message gay people have to understand, to love themselves. They can't hate themselves. They can't abuse themselves. They can't say they're not normal. They are normal, just an expression of it from that end. But just look at some of the countries on the earth right now where we don't have our basic freedom. Unbelievable. I remember hugging a guy in a bar in a country, and he said, "Oh my God," he said, "if they see that, they'll kill me." You know, in some of the countries I've been in, I've seen that kind of scare toward gay people, you know, and the Westerners at least are able to get involved somewhat, but it's not right. And I just hope another generation doesn't have to go through what other generations have. And I think the young generation today, those who aren't too sure who they are or they really haven't expressed themselves, they need to understand themselves. There's nothing wrong with finding out who you are, you know. And one of your best buddies who you've been hanging with maybe is somebody you could talk to. But it's no big deal. Just get on with your life. And as you get on with your life and you let that go away, it's no longer a drag on you. And the best of you can come out. Like for me to do 3,400 shows and run a big cable conglomerate for 22 years, I mean, it was a joy. It was a lot of fun. This is a true line I always say, I've never worked a day in my life. I've always done things I love to do and that have been positive. And if I hurt anybody, I ask for forgiveness. You know, if I made a mistake, please, I do make mistakes. And then I get into politics. You know, they make this big deal about elected officials and all this BS about that whole stuff. Well, you're learning too on the job. What you might think today on something could change when you get more information. And that's evolving. That's not flip-flopping. You know, they want to do in politics, gotcha politics, everything's gotcha. That's trash television. That's the kind of television news that we shouldn't have as a nation. We should have real information. Let people finish their sentences and their thoughts and their ideas before you go on to the next question. You know, these are the kinds of ways to empower the people. And doing these interviews are empowering people. And I want to empower you young folks out there. You're okay, just the way you are. Look at yourself. You're great. And with that energy, you know, just keep moving forward with your life. We all have our moments of our dignity and our identity. It might sound a little weird, but I was 3 years old when I was in the front yard by where the birds drink the water, right, by the fountain. And I fell back and I looked up and I just felt this energy that said, "Bill, you're one of my chosen ones." I just felt, and I screamed, and my sister came running down the stairs, and she was in her slip, and ran outside. But from age 3, I felt I was special. Like I think everybody is special, and they have to have that moment when it hit me. It hit me when I was 3. So from 3 years on, I've been acting like, you know, I'm here for a purpose and a reason, and which we all are. But I had that in me from that point on. And then there were many moments in grade school and high school where I had wonderful interaction activities that just inspired me more to go forward, like going to college. I got to St. Vincent College, small Catholic school. My father paid half, I paid half. You know, it was 1,000 students, and our sister school was Seton Hall in Greenville. And so it was a man's college, a Benedictine-run college, and that was my undergraduate school. I became real close to the head of the university, who then became the abbot primate of the Benedictines of the world. Rembert Weekland was his name. And Rembert and I would walk around the campus and chat and hang out. And he was a very spiritual man, and he had an impact on my spiritual growth. He also at one point asked me, "Why don't you become a priest?" And I said, "I'm not going to be a priest, not in the Catholic Church that wants to put me in hell for being a gay man. You know, there's nothing wrong with being gay. And I resent the church for treating gay people as second-class citizens. And they got a lot of gays in the church. And look at all these priests doing perverted things with children, which I'm against and think is outrageous. Consenting adults is one thing. Anything else is wrong. And to see that action and the games plays that would do is all pretty awful. And so as I looked at how I deal with various things, I've always felt that if you're open and honest with yourself and you share your true feelings, people can understand and they can appreciate. There were times when I almost got killed. One time I was walking, I was in graduate school, University of Pittsburgh, and I'm walking across the campus from a gay bar that was across the street, and 5 guys come running over the hill, "You fucking faggot." And they started beating the shit out of me. And I took 2 of them down with me. I'm a big guy. But then I had to run. And the next day I go to school, and the professor says, "Oh my God," I was all beaten up, busted up, and all that. Police, I filled out a police report. But yeah. And I forgot about that for 20 years because it was so painful. That hate crime directed at me that I just couldn't believe it was me. And then as I got more mature in myself and more appreciation of my dignity in myself, that story would come back, and obviously has been with me all my life, knowing that we do get beaten up. Many times I've come out of a bar and somebody would roll down the window and either spit or say, "You fucking faggot." So even in the great United States of America, I felt the prejudice, but not as much as I felt it in other parts of the planet where it's just outrageous. The only place I saw a little bit more liberated was Western Europe, where there seemed to be more of an appreciation in some places about us being who we are and accepting us for being who we are. But we have a lot more to do on this planet. And there are a lot of leaders out there in their teens and 20s right now that when you get that fire in your belly and your heart and you realize you're okay, you're blessed like anybody else is blessed, and you're not going to tolerate anybody's dishonesty or immorality to another person, anybody's abuse of another person. Don't tolerate it and let them have it. And that's what more gay people have to do, is make that statement, not only to themselves, for their own self-worth, but for our brothers and sisters around the earth who don't have their basic civil and human rights. Our biggest challenge is the most important challenge is for us to love ourselves. And once we accept who we really are, we come out in as many different ways as we are as people in expressing our energy and our love and our abilities to do things on this earth. I can tell you, gay people are great contributors to the rest of the society and always have been, quietly giving. It's that aunt over there who never got married, or that uncle over there. They would put it in those terms. But many of us did get married and did go through the ritual of the traditions because there was nothing else to believe in. But we've always existed since humankind exists. And that's just another expression of nature. And one has to accept all the expressions of nature. We can't define, yes, this is good, this is bad when it comes to nature. There's no moral issue in that. Morality comes in when you talk about selfishness, talk about greed, talk about envy, talk about all of those desires at the expense of another. You can have desires, but not at the expense of another. You don't have to beat your neighbor down to have a good relationship with your neighbor. And I took this attitude even in every level of government that I dealt with once I got elected. Whatever the issue was, I had no hidden agenda. I used to put up a sign, no gifts. I wouldn't even take a box of chocolate because the perception becomes reality. And we know that as gay people, our perception. Look at some of your best actors, some of your best artists are sensitive to humanity so much, and they happen to be gay because they have that sensitivity. We do have extra talents and gifts. Everybody in humanity does. And so you can look at being gay as a blessing, not as a curse. And we have to see it as a blessing because it isn't a curse. But the world made it a curse. So it's our job now to demystify who we are. We're normal human beings like everybody else. We laugh. We love to eat. We love to hug each other. We enjoy we can write books. We can do art. We can smell the air, walk our dog, have our cats, have our finches and canaries, and have your turkeys and chickens, whatever. We're all complement each other on this earth. And the more we complement each other, the stronger and more united we become, and the healthier we become as a planet. Sitting here today to know we're in wars all over the earth, spending trillions of dollars killing each other. For what? Why in God's name are we doing this? Has it made the world a better place and a safer place? No. Through your actions you'll be known. The United States is the only place still on earth of such large nature where you could go and create your own world. 40% of Los Angeles are immigrants. I'm first generation. My parents were immigrants from Germany. They met at 86th Street in New York. And they fell in love. They were in the Catholic choir, church choir. And then 3 children into their relationship, they moved from New York to Jersey to get more land. They went to Bergenfield, and they ended up in Englewood, where I was born as child number 6, and then there were 2 more, and that made it a family of 10. I know people, oh my God, so many kids. Blah, blah, blah. Look, for me to be the third of the youngest, with all that energy around me, it was fabulous. I ain't afraid of nothing. And my brother Peter and I, for 18 years, we had each other. We had so much fun together. We fought together. We played together. We would get animals together. We did this, did that. And then he went his way. I went to college and graduate school. He's getting married. I fly back to the best man at his wedding, which was so sweet. And that's when I wandered the world. And he got married, had 2 kids. And unfortunately, my brother Peter died 13 years ago of cancer. And so you learn the preciousness of life. He left 2 little children who now, one is married and has 2 children. And when you realize that all we have is the moment, and each moment is as important as the other, and if we can love one another, like I did with my brother and everybody else, all this other stuff that we go through, we can handle. And I say to every gay person out there, you're okay. Just love yourself, share it intimately with family and friends, and see where it takes you next. But then I want you to participate in helping make the world a better place for our brothers and sisters around the earth who don't have the same opportunities that we have in this great country. I love America. I mean, there's nothing like it. See my flag here? Why do I got that on? It's the only place on earth. You can come from anywhere and actually settle here and try to make it work. Now you see my cancer survivor pin. That's to give hope and inspiration to everybody else who's getting cancer these days, from the food we eat, the air we breathe, and all the toxicity around us. So that's another issue that one should be a missionary on and work on. But we've come a long way in the last 20 years. Dramatic come a long way. And I know we're going to even come further along, not just in this country, but around the world. When Annette Bening came up to me, Warren Beatty's wife, and Warren and I are old friends from Bobby Kennedy and George McGovern and all, and Warren wanted to introduce me to his wife, right? They weren't married yet. She was 6 months pregnant. And he gets up and he says, Bill, and she says, Warren, you don't have to introduce me to Bill Rosendahl. She puts out her hand and she says, I am your biggest fan. She says, I have been watching your show for years. I've learned a lot. I looked at Warren and I said, Warren, she's a keeper, baby. Laughed. He ended up obviously getting married. 4 children later, she's still making movies, and he's in the process of making a movie, but he's been more of a house husband, a dad, in the last 10 years, 20 years with the kids. And it's just a joy to know that the television in this town, the movies in this town, impact the entire globe. I came to LA from San Francisco because I knew that. I understand the media. I understand its power on the earth. And if in Los Angeles, the creative capital of the earth, where all the television and all the movies historically had come from, if they can get the wisdom here about gay rights, it can have an extreme multiplier effect in everything that an artist creates, anything that a producer, director, filmmaker does. If their spirituality suggests that this is a basic human and civil rights issue, which obviously it is, and I'm committed to those basic civil and human rights, it's a great moment in Los Angeles to be the leader of the planet in getting the message out that we're all created equal and we're all God's children. Well, it was a little awkward at first, a little embarrassing for some. I'm not going to mention names because they're all still in power, And this one guy says to me, just like what Senator Howard Metzenbaum once said. One time I'm walking into Senator Howard Metzenbaum's office, dear friend of mine, right? And I ran his campaign, all that. And we walk into his back office, and he opens up a box of chocolate, sits down, puts his feet up on the desk, and he says, so Bill, tell me, what do you do in gay sex? Here's a United States Senator asking me, what is gay sex? So I said, Senator, you ready for this? And I told him the various ways people show their love and affection for each other. He said, I've learned something today. Or I'm on the city council. One of my colleagues said, oh my God, Bill, you're not going to relax. And as they got to know me, it's all about knowing somebody. They began to realize, my guy's just like anybody else. And I even took it more dramatically from the gay level. It had to do with the marijuana business. Everybody's against marijuana. Oh, it's the worst fucking. And so I said, what do I say? I said, look, I have cancer, and the marijuana's saving my life. dramatic change on the council floor. Except for 2 out of the 15, they all unanimously supported medical marijuana. So all I was pushing for is the medical marijuana, which has literally saved my life. And I had a huge impact on my colleagues on that. As the openly gay guy, I've been openly gay since I got, 1995. So even though Joe Wax and Jackie Goldberg are gay, and they are pioneers, they came out when they were in office. I came out before I ran for office. My opponent did use it as a negative against me. Oh, I have no problem with Bill Rosendahl being gay. A group in the Palisades heard that who were holding a fundraiser, and they canceled the fundraiser because it was part of her little trail there. That's all right. I ended up winning by 14 points. I didn't hold anything against anybody. And when I got down there at City Hall, I saw myself as a publicly open gay man with the responsibility of letting people know we're good people. And then we just elected Mike Bonin, my former chief of staff, openly gay. He's got a partner. They're going to have a marriage the 19th of July, a Harvard guy. I mean, for God's sake. And then you got Mitchell Farrell, another one that I supported, and he won for council. We have 2 gay people. And the city controller, Ron Galpin, is also gay. You got a mayor who's gay-friendly, at least. He's that. He could be a lot more and all of that issues there, whatever. But he's been very supportive. So the city is in a different spot than it was when I first started. But when you share yourself with people and you get rid of that mystery or the ignorance, most people respond positively. And that happened around the Horseshoe at the city government. That happened in all the top bureaucratic groups and meetings and everything else. I'm Bill Rosendahl, who happens to be gay. Just like these sports guys are beginning to make that point out there. It's not that I'm gay. I happen to be gay, just like you happen to be straight or whatever you are. It's just part of who you are. And when you take that positive attitude and just move on, you don't have to spend energy on it. See, I don't like to spend energy on fighting for my rights. I want to say I have them, and I'm going to fight for your rights, and I'm going to fight for this and that and the other. I'm okay. But to get to that point for myself, especially most recently with this cancer business, you have to fight hard. And I say to all the cancer folks out there, never give up. Never give up hope. Never give up on yourself. And remember, around you is energy that will help you go if you're meant to continue to live. And that's the cancer story. On the gay thing, just accept yourself, for God's sake, and get on with your life and enjoy it. And it's fun. I mean, I've enjoyed being a gay man. My partners have both been fantastic. I love them both dearly. One's gone, and the other one is here with me. So what do I want in life? You want your health, you like your wealth, and your happiness. Well, your health, a lot has to do with your psychological feelings of yourself, depression and all that. Your wealth comes from your positive energy and how you interact. And everything else will come in place as time goes on. I don't think it is a mystery. They make too much out of sex. I mean, it's no big deal. They put more on it than it's worth. Let relationships be more than just the sex, or let the relationship just be the sex. I don't care, but sex shouldn't dominate your sense of being. It's part of who you are. I'm not running around having sex every minute of the day. I can't even tell you when the last time I had. It's none of your business anyhow, but, point is, be yourself and don't care about that. You try to bring everybody in. You never, ever give up on anybody. I've never given up on anybody. Even those that want to say, well, they're this, they're that. No. There's always a light in everybody. That if you have the energy, you can bring that out and bring the better part of a person to the surface. And I have found in all my life, with a positive attitude, positive energy, 90% of the people respond positive. You know the old saying, when you smile, the whole world smiles at you? That's it. Keep it on. Okay, I'm feeling terrible, right? Bring it up. Why not? Why not? What do you have to lose? So if you can feel that confidence, it's a sense of confidence of self. And by your fruits you will be known. I don't mean that in a jokey way, your fruit, but by what you accomplish, you'll be known. And so look at yourself in life. Like I was telling one of your guys here is 52 years old, right? I said, you're in your 50s now. This is the decade to consolidate your wealth and power. Your 40s, from 40 to 50, is to consolidate your identity. And when you hit 50, if you don't accept yourself, it's your problem, buddy. Whatever you are at 50, you know. And then take 50 to 60 as a way to consolidate all of that. And then 60 on as to giving back and how you can get involved, how you can make a difference, and try to live another 20 or 30 years if you can pull it off. But it's the quality of life, not the length of it. Like, if my day comes and I collapse again and I have a stroke or this or that, I don't want to hang around. I don't want to be a burden on anybody. You know, I just want to be a blessing. And as long as I feel I'm there doing things, then life is worth living. And it's not about me. It's about others and me and together how we can make the world a better place. And that motivates me every day to do this interview, to let people know outside of this particular studio at this particular moment that they're okay. And if they're young, it's going to go on your shoulders now to help us take us to the next point where we don't find ourselves killed anywhere on earth. That's what I hate the most. To hear a story of somebody who's just been killed or somebody who's just been stabbed. Or, you know, you look and you cry. I feel that pain. We are connected as humanity. We can rise up with that energy. Look, this president of ours was willy-nilly a few years ago on gay rights. He was so willy-nilly that when the blacks all came out to vote, they all voted against us on gay rights. I had told the president, indirectly through close friends, would you explain that this is a civil rights issue to those people going to vote? It's a human rights, civil rights issue. It's not a morality issue. He didn't do it. The president didn't do it. And he let that Joe Biden of his talk about a marriage between a man and a woman. That blew it. And we lost in that period. But he's come a long way since. You know, to hear the President of the United States say the things he said about gay people and about human rights and civil rights and minority rights in the last period of time has been breathtaking. And I just hope that Obama stays on that path for equal justice and equal rights for gay people, that he has shown leadership in the last 6 months to a year. That was one of my problems with Ronald Reagan. He didn't do nothing about it. Or Billy Clinton, first 2 years, he did nothing about it. That's when I lost my first partner, Christopher Lee Bauman. You know, and Hedy El Koti, he's healthy, has no health issues. Hopefully he'll live to be 120, you know, and I'm admiring him and his work and what he's doing. And life goes on. We never should give up on ourselves and never give up on life. And you know, when you help another human being, you really help yourself. By helping others, you help yourself. But you feel it. Your endorphins start playing on you. Your energy starts running around in you. And you start putting on a grin without even faking it. It just happens. You see? And you know that. When you smile, the whole world smiles at you. When I'm walking down the street and someone's looking down, I go, hi. And they look up and they see me smile. Then they smile. You know? And it means so much. People want to be listened to and respected. And that doesn't matter what your sexuality is. And people will forget your sexuality. Or it'll come back in a more positive light. And you know, he's a really great guy, or she's just amazing. And they happen to be a lesbian or a gay guy or bisexual, transgender, or whatever. We call ourselves Q, you know. Truth of the matter is it's part of the human condition. And the more we let that be clear and don't make it a military battling kind of thing, we're okay. There's too much of that confrontation stuff out there. We don't need any confrontation on this. We need understanding on this. We need respect on this. We need a sense of togetherness on this. You know, you can use religion in a positive way. I always carry in my pocket, you know, I was raised a Catholic, though I consider all religions. This is 1 decade of the Rosary. Now, I just sometimes reach on it just to reflect. But I'm not accepting Catholicism over Judaism, over Mohammedanism, over that kind of stuff. You know, if you talk about love, then you're the religion I care about. If you talk about hate, you ain't me. You know, and like I've said to the Monsignor who runs that church in Santa Monica, I said, look, I can't come back to your mass until you accept gay people and don't throw dignity out the room. You wouldn't even let us in the church. There's nothing wrong with us. Show some respect. I mean, I tell that to Monsignor Turgensen. So I won't go to his church. That's disrespectful to my sense of God if you don't treat us as equals. Now, he's come a long way. He does a mass every Sunday night at 5:30. People all go from everywhere. But he's not going to get me back until they accept us gay people in the front pew, just like they accept everybody else. And we'll have to work through that with the Catholic Church. But I keep the rosary bead because I reflect on the positive things of the rosary, which was about love and togetherness. My parents and I, all of us, 10 kids, 8 kids, and 2, would have to kneel down every night and say the rosary. First 18 years of my life, every day we said the rosary. So it was ingrained in me as part of my growing up and my culture. But when I balance it all out within the mix of being 68 now and growing the way I do, it's all part of the spirit. But that helps me psychically a little bit. And when I was right at death's door, where I thought I was literally going to die, I lost 5 of my friends. That's when I came to the spiritual conclusion that Paul, I know this is radical, Paul, who wrote the epistles, was the first Antichrist. He never met Jesus. And then he claimed to represent him and then wanted to take this Jewish hippie sect and control it. He saw a great opportunity for himself. So as I'm dying there, literally, I realized that in my soul, that Paul was not part of Christ at all. He was the first bad guy in that context of religion. Otherwise, I'd have gone to hell in my own psychodrama. And I didn't do anything to hurt anybody to do that. So all gay people have to go through that in their religions and in their family, in their situation. And they got to come out where I came out, which is I'm okay. I'm doing the Lord's work my way. I'm another expressions of God's love. And we're all in this together. Well, I think the Russia thing and the Olympics was fantastic. I think the gay people on the earth sensitively entwined themselves into everything. There was no way avoiding us, and there was no way of not accepting us. It was brilliant strategy. All those gays around the planet that somehow hit around with each other, and those who came literally to that Olympics, God bless them all. They made me very proud. There's a lot to teach us. I'll never forget those 80s when all my friends came down with it. I've lost practically every one of my friends. I just happened not to be a bottom. And if you want to talk, technically, it was those that were bottoms that the semen goes through that end of your body that has no protections. Nobody knew nothing. And then when they knew, it was obviously too late for those that were infected. And during that period when there was no hope, they didn't have the pills. And I'm watching my partner, a man I love, and others dying in front of me. And I'm still speechless over their death. The lessons learned is that we have to stick together as gay people, because that's what we ended up doing. The ladies, the lesbians, they came back for their brothers. Our brothers got involved with each other's brothers. And we as a community became for the first time united. We were not united before. We would see each other in the bar, use fake names, this and that. But we didn't go that far in relationships because the world doesn't accept us. But at this particular moment in time, it's changed. And everyone who comes out with a fresh attitude that we can't let another brother or sister suffer the way we have, be it psychologically or be it physically. And I must say, both psychologically and physically, they're killing us on this earth. And we have to stay strong. And in the years ahead, we have a mission, and that is that every one of us in this planet has basic civil and human rights and protections. I think we demonstrated dramatically in the last short period of time. From the 85 to 95 was the death. And by the end of 95, they started coming up with the drugs. So there was a whole generation that there was no hope at that time. And to give up hope how can we live if we don't have hope? You have to have faith, hope, and charity, right? But hope was something that we just didn't have at that point. So that was the worst. But out of that came a stronger energy among us survivors of AIDS. I mean, Michael Weinstein, he runs the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. He's got thousands of people right now as we're sitting here that he's helping who are HIV. Some are gay, some are straight. Michael himself happens to be a gay man, and he's all over the world doing the Lord's work, in my opinion. And it's amazing that if you believe in something And if you believe you can make a difference, you have to touch yourself sometimes because you've made a bigger difference than even you thought you could make. The potential in humanity for goodness and greatness is unbelievable. You see it in your world. Look at the television, how they create different things, or how they do with movies, how we do it communicating our messages on the smartphone or Facebook now or our iPad Lord have mercy, we're all over the place in connecting. We are more connected as a planet than ever in its history. If something just happened 2 seconds ago in Ethiopia, you and I would know what happened in Ethiopia. But speaking of Ethiopia, I'm going to digress. I went there in 1974, 75. I saw people dying. I saw lepers grabbing my feet as I went into a church one day. But the worst part was seeing young children dying on the side of the road with flies in their face. And from that point on, every time I eat, all I can say is thank you for me having this opportunity to eat. And there should be no starvation on this earth. Talk about gay rights. Talk about basic life. The starvation. How can we do this? How can we? I bought a sack of oranges for $2, 4 hours away from that spot. And this was what they call a latrine stop. You stop, you go to the restroom there, get back on the bus and go. I got off of the bus and these little kids come running up to me. I gave them all my oranges, gave them everything I could give them. And I see the other ones just lying there, flies and stuff on their face. Unacceptable yesterday, unacceptable today, and unacceptable tomorrow. This kind of inhumanity. And you can couple that with the gay harassment. It's all the same story of not showing love and respect for another human. How dare those little children be lying there and dying with flies around them when there's food just 4 hours away on a dusty road? How can you look yourself in the mirror, world? And you remember Ethiopia at that point was a protectorate of the United States. We put that Haile Selassie in power. So when I got there, he was under house arrest. And when they found out I was an American, they wanted to kill me. I went and ran in the Simeon Mountains. And one of the guys in the mountains there took me into his hut and let me sleep there for the night. And the next morning there was ice all over the place. I don't think I would have lived. And I was a random man. I had a Brooks Brothers shirt in my backpack, and I gave my Brooks Brothers shirt, with the button down. And next day I'm riding a horse, and he's riding by me with his jalaba, and underneath it I could see my Brooks Brothers shirt. So I left with a real smile, but he was there for me. I never met this man before in my life. I've never heard of him again. I would have been dead. That's where they were trying to kill me. So you don't know. If you trust in the Spirit, it can move you through situations. Like right now, what am I struggling with? I'm struggling with my own survival because of the cancer situation. But more importantly, I want to leave a statement behind to the future generations. The statement is, we're all good. We're all God's children. We're all made in God's image and likeness. If you're going to be religious, if you're going to be non-religious, just remember that the collective of humanity is a good energy, and we all have value in that energy. In this mosaic of humanity, everybody brings something nice to the picture. So you have to have self-love, and you have to be proud of who you are. And if you're a young person out there, all the negativity toward gay people, you've heard it all. But if you happen to be gay and that's your nature, accept your nature. Build a friendship circle around it and let your family know. The sooner you let them know, the less of a hassle you have to deal with. Well, if they reject your threat, that's their problem. They'll have to grow up and learn. You don't want their love at the expense of living a lie. I hate to tell you that. It's hard because, you want to be accepted. And you tell your dad or your mom, I'm sorry, I'm gay. Don't say you're sorry. I am gay. This is the way it is. And I want your support and your love. And at first, some of them will go freaky. And after a while, when they realize you're the same, as you were 2 seconds ago, you're a good, decent human being, they'll grow in it. I found that in my own family experience, being one of 8. I don't want to go through each one's personality, but some immediately accepted me, like my brother Peter, who's a year older than me, who just played with me all those years. One of my other siblings was not that happy. But when it all was said and done over the years, they all obviously have accepted me. And at one point, way before my father died, and he died many years ago now, he came by to visit me just to let the whole family know that he loved his son, Bill. And you find out that there's a lot of love out there that you don't even know about around you. You're not going to be rejected. You're a young person, they're going to reject. No, they're not. And you're going to find some funny folks that you don't know too well who are going to come up and say, you know, I knew you were gay. I'm gay too. And reach out. You got to build a friendship circle, gay and straight, family and friends. And that helps us not only dealing with our sexuality, but dealing with life. We all need a support group. And in that support group, we have all kinds of support from different people who bring different things to that mosaic of life. But if you're open to everybody's energy and you're clear where you're coming from, it's tremendous. It's just fabulous. People say, Bill, why are you so positive? Because why not? The glass is either half full or half empty, duh, or fully full or fully empty, duh, you know, this and that and all that. Hey, get over it. Be positive. It's always half full, even if it's half empty. We always can do better. You know, one of the things I loved about Bobby Kennedy when I worked for the guy was, you know, we can do better. He used to say that all the time. Here I am with him, you know. He and I had such a great relationship. And when I walked into that damn hotel and went from the Ambassador Hotel inside, and then he gets shot thereafter, never forgot that, obviously. And a bunch of us, by that experience, this horrific experience of losing the guy we wanted to be President of the United States, that's when we committed to do something meaningful in his memory. And that's when Paul Charade, who got shot when Bobby did, Bobby's last words were, "How's Paul?" Paul and I bonded over the years. And we tore down that Ambassador Hotel and built that complex of school. I was fortunate enough to name the library after Paul Charade. I had that power and that position at that time because I was in the government and so on and working with the superintendent of schools, and we accomplished that. So you can go by that complex of schools and realize in the memory of Bobby Kennedy, the coalition builder, the one who believed in all of humanity, we have this complex of schools. So you can take a bad moment, like an assassination, and attempt to build something positive out of it. Because if you don't, you wallow in the misery of the earth. I mean, look at the wars we're in right now. For what? Look at the billions of dollars and trillions of dollars we've spent. For what? Look at the poverty on earth. 1 out of 5 people goes to bed hungry every night. I mean, come on. Can't we do better? You know, and that's one of the things I liked about Bobby's, can't we do better? Or even JFK, his brother when he was president. When I first met him, you know, I was a kid in Hackensack, New Jersey. And from that moment on, in 1960, I got motivated and politically engaged and involved and so on and so forth. Education is a very key part of my journey, as it should be of everybody. It's your credit card to opportunities. It opens up the doors that wouldn't be opened if you didn't have education. Just being pragmatic for a moment. If you want a key to get in the door, you got to get a key. Education is a key. It's an opportunity to go forward. So you have to think of that first. Now, do I know who I am and what I want to be, and I'm going to go in college and become that? No. College, undergraduate school, can be a liberal arts experience. I majored in political science and economics. Political science because I have fastened interest in politics, and economics because I want to understand the economy and how it relates to politics and how it relates to making a difference out there. So those were the two degrees in undergraduate school. And having that as a backdrop, I then took a summer program. Well, I was going to go to law school, did lousy in the law boards, so I didn't know what I was going to do. And a professor of mine, who then became a professor of mine at the University of Pittsburgh, said, I have a project this summer in Brownsville, Pennsylvania, and I'd like you to manage this project. We're going to be taking these streams and building these dams and putting fish in there and providing fishing opportunities for people as well. Are you interested? And sounded fascinating. Undergraduate political science and economics to get the basics, to get that down. When I got an opportunity to get a master's in social work, an MSW, where they would pay for everything, plus give me a stipend to live on. That was a golden opportunity because I didn't have any money and one of 8 kids and all that. So I got this fellowship to the University of Pittsburgh, a master's degree. And I didn't realize that once a social worker, always a social worker. Things happen in you that dramatically impact how you look at things. I always worried about homelessness. I always worried about people with bipolar business and other psychiatric issues. I've always felt sorry for parts of humanity that can't express itself properly. So when I went to graduate school, it was a 2-year opportunity where I did several things. One, believe it or not, I took a leave of absence to work for Bobby Kennedy and went to Indianapolis, and Ted Kennedy hired me, sent me up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that's how I first got to work with Bobby. We ended up winning up there. Then they sent me to Portland, Oregon. I brought all my other college kids with us, 40 of us, and we did 190 precincts in Portland. And I was the guy who told the Kennedy something that no one has ever told a Kennedy, which was the day of the election in Oregon, he asked me to come to the plane. So I went to the plane, I sat there, and we talked, and he was really grateful for all the things I had done and my staff and everything else. And just as I'm about to get up, he says, so how am I going to do today? And I looked at him and I said, I didn't know what to say. I said, you're going to lose. He jumped out of that chair like he grew to this 12-foot tall monster. And he's screaming and yelling. Finally, he sits down and he says, so why am I going to lose? I said, well, the issue in Oregon is, why wouldn't you debate McCarthy? This is one of those government in the sunshine places. And no one's been able to explain that out. Well, he lost. So the story was, somebody told a Kennedy, no one has ever told a Kennedy in a situation like that. But he invited me down to LA, and I was there for the last week of his life. My troops all went up to San Francisco. And I was basically in the hotel room strategizing the remaining states and how we're going to pop around the country and do what we needed to do. So turning points happen all the time in one's life. You just don't know what's up next. And after he died, I went back to graduate school. I got my master's degree. And you know, you don't have to rush into who you're going to be in life. It takes time. I know I was going to do social work, but I didn't end up in social work. I ended up, because of my degree in economics and political science, I ended up being an executive, a corporate executive, running a corporation in the West Coast for 22 years. So, but it's the foundation of your sensibilities. It opens up options for you, education. It's key. And if you got a chance to get an education, either you got the money or don't have the money, or get a scholarship, or have friends support, it's good. It's good to have more credentials. Well, some people say, well, some people aren't built for that. Well, fine. If you want to be in the trades and you want to be in these kinds of jobs, you can get training for that too. But the pay's not going to be as good as the other pay will be too. And you have to realize the money benefits as well as the other benefits. And in my case, the fact that I had all that education was strong, made me even stronger and more confident with myself. You know, and fortunately for me, my very first job, I ended up on the cover of Life magazine, not my face, but the new modern army with a guy on a motorcycle. And if you open it up, you see a picture of me with the general. Because when I was in the Army, my second year, I became an advisor to the general. First year, I was a psychiatric social worker. I saw 8 or 9 Vietnam vets a day. The second year, I told the general how messed up the fort was, and he said, okay, big shot, so what would you do about it? He made me a special enlisted assistant to the commanding general, and I reported directly to him. I ended up putting enlisted men in the IG shop. I sent a reinforced platoon to Crown Point, New Mexico to build a hospital for the Navajo Indians. Morale soared on the post, created a racial harmony council, enlisted men's council. I put enlisted men in the IG shop, and re-enlistments went up, morale went up. Life magazine did a cover story on it. And you see a picture of me in Life magazine. So you never know. Well, what did that land me? My first real job in the private sector. One of the richest men on earth had read about me and felt, this is who I want. I got a call out of the blue. Guess who it was? John D. Rockefeller III, the oldest of the 5 boys, on the 56th floor of the RCA building in New York. Flew me back. I interviewed with John. Then he came out to the Army post and announced that I was becoming his special associate, managing his merging interest in social change. John D. Rockefeller III. I moved to the 56th floor of the RCA building, overlooking Central Park. I had a staff of 4 people there. I saw John 3 times a week. There were times when we would have lunch at the Rainbow Room, the Rainbow Grill upstairs. But most importantly, I was sensitizing his foundations to find ways in which we could work with young people in the establishment and put it together. It was a positive opportunity. But that came out of doing my Army stuff, which in part came out of my education stuff. So we have building blocks. When you're 30, you pretty well have an idea where you're at, but it takes a lifetime. And we can even change professions 4 or 5 times the average American does. So there is opportunities that we grow along the way as we get different opportunities in our life. But we have to have passion. We have to stay positive. We cannot give up. We have to be disciplined. And we have to do our homework. You know, there's no free lunches. People say about my show, "Oh, Bill, you're so good." Oh, I do my homework. You write those questions out. There's no glamour in it, but you're practicing your brain. You're getting yourself focused. You're going to do the best you can. And that's the attitude of energy that affects social change and makes things happen. You can never give up. When I picked up the television, well, this morning I'm reading 3 newspapers. In my driveway, I always have the New York Times, LA Times, and the Wall Street Journal. All 3. And I look at positions of headlines. I look at the way the stories are written. I look at how each newspaper defines the story. Times is this, the other Times is that, and the Wall Street Journal. You know, and you do your homework in the morning. You set up yourself. You even eat your best meal in the morning and get your energy up. But it's a matter of focusing and being disciplined about it. But know that each level will bring you to another level, and you're not 100% sure what that is going to be. If you're open, it comes to you over time. Now, how can we help? How can we play a role in this? What we're doing here today with this interview is to put a historical perspective on the moment. For all of us out there, gay and straight, all of humanity, knowledge is power. Speak to truth. All of those energies are at play when you're working on yourself and you're working on your future. If you have money now, some of my friends, at least 500 of them gave me significant monies when I ran for office. If you catch this, support this. It's a big deal. It's a big deal not just for me. It's a big deal for all those men and women out there that are suffering in their loneliness, in their depression, suicidal, bipolar. All of the men and women on the planet, frankly, who suffer that way. But gay people in particular right now are the only group left on earth where we don't have our basic civil and human rights. And we can't tolerate this anymore. If you got money out there, you're going to have to write a check to the Lavender Project. You're going to have to help these folks. And you have to see at the credits at the end how you can help. You're making a huge difference in people's lives when you contribute to a cause that puts it in a historical perspective. Just like in the Jewish community. Many of you know when I ran Century Cable, survivors from the Holocaust all did their interviews in my studios. I did it for free for the obvious reason that the message had to get out. Just like the Armenians in 1915 have to get their message out from their genocide. Never again do we want to see a genocide on this planet. And yes, we believe in the state of Israel, but we also believe in Palestinians' rights and freedoms. So if people take a look at themselves and realize we're all made up with all kinds of complexities, one thing I can tell you for certainty, if you can write a check today and you can help this project going, you will have done a mitzvah. You will have made a difference in a lot of people's lives in this planet. And I just want to thank you for that and say, God bless you. And those of you who used to watch my show, I used to say, God bless you and bye-bye. But no, not bye-bye until we meet again. Well, I want to thank Joel Wax and Jackie Goldberg right out the gate. These were my 2 predecessors and pioneers for gay rights in the Los Angeles City Council. They both were somewhat pushed around and came out in that kind of a direction. And I watched their career, and I loved both of them. I admired both of them for what they did. And so when I came out as an openly gay man in '95, before I even ran for office, I ran for office in 2005. So I was out for 10 years. They were my backdrop. So the first thing I want to do is thank those 2 for being pioneers in the city of LA for basic civil and human rights for gay people. And then I want to thank every gay person on the planet that's put themselves out to help their brothers and sisters so that we all have basic, civil rights and basic humanity appreciation.